Assalamu alaikum, family. You're tuned into the Sajda channel, and I am your host, Sajda Wendy Muhammad. Welcome to what, inshallah, will be another powerful show. So be a friend, tell a friend. Yesterday, we talked about the power of silence, and I just want to roll that forward into what I call kind of a partnership concept in confidentiality. So be a friend, tell a friend. We'll be right back in a few short minutes.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee. And he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee. And I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
I'm back. I was looking for something for y'all, but I didn't find it, so I'm just going to paraphrase it. But Assalamu alaikum. We're back. You're tuned into the Sajda Wendy Muhammad YouTube channel, and I am your host, Sajda Wendy Muhammad. It's the Sajda channel. It's Sajda Morning Coffee Talks. Yesterday, we talked about the power of silence, and some of you wrote me saying that you just can't do it. You just can't do it. And I wanted to say first that some of you are just sitting down trying to meditate for a whole hour. Just start with 5 minutes. Just start with 5 minutes. But rolling that forward, the silence conversation into confidentiality is what I want to do today. But before we dive into confidentiality, I just want to say something and have a little bit of a segment first off in the show about confidentiality, um, and how if it's been done before, you can do it too. And this is why it's so important that we understand history, because when you're off by yourself, thinking that no one has ever done what you've done, you're this rugged individual, you thugging it out by yourself, it can be challenging. But I'm going to show you a video about the power of knowing that someone else has done it. I just want you to see this. And then we're going to come back, talk about it a little bit, and then dive into confidentiality. All right.
Before April 1954, the common belief, the universal belief, because it had been tried again and again and again, and people had failed, the belief was that man was not physically capable of breaking the 4-minute barrier, that he could not run a mile in less than 4 minutes. That was the belief on the planet. It had never been done. But here's what happened, ladies and gentlemen. Roger Bannister came along, and he broke the 4-minute barrier. Now, here's what's significant about that. Since that time, up to this day, over 20,000 people have done it, including high school kids. What changed? 20,000 people, what changed? Here's what happened when they got on the track. They knew it had been done. And because they knew it had been done, there was a new belief about this barrier, about this goal that was unreachable. And those 20,000 people got in a race believing, knowing in their heart that someone had done it, that it's possible that they could do it. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that if you know anybody that had some goal, some dream, something they wanted to do, and they did it, then I'm saying that you know in your heart that if someone has done it, then you can do it. It's possible. And that if someone can make their dream become a reality, that it's possible that you can make your dream become reality. And so as you begin to look at where you want to go, beginning to embrace that, it's possible. I'm blessed and highly favored. I've got a lot going for me. I got some good stuff in me. And it's possible that I can bring my greatness out here in the universe, that I can do what I want to do. It's possible I can write my own book. I can have my own business. I can take the trip and travel around the world. It's possible. I can bounce back from adversity and reinvent my life. It's possible. Regardless of where I am, that things can get better for me. It's possible.
You know, that is such a powerful little video clip for me. Because one of the things that if you take a coaching session with me, and that is that if there's something you're working on, it's very important that you're studying successful people, that you're having conversations around and centered around and with successful people. It's important that you are researching successful situations, because your subconscious mind can do what you are telling it, what you can't tell it to do. And what that subconscious mind will do is it will go ahead and embrace those things that are in what you're studying to help push you forward towards your goal. So whenever I'm working on something, whenever I have a really big goal, I'm studying other successful people that did it. And if I can't find something specific, I'm studying other successful people who overcame an obstacle or who pushed through fear or who overcame haters or criminal people, who overcame ignorant people, whatever it is. Studying that, because then your brain is constantly being programmed to win. Before Bannister ran that 4-minute mile, nobody allegedly had done it, although it's probably some black person somewhere that did it. But publicly, this is what's interesting about this. Publicly, and to the press's acknowledgement, no one had done it. Once he did it, and it was publicized, advertised, talked about, PR'd, then over 20,000 people and counting have done it. I remember when I was running track in junior high school, the goal of a 4-minute mile was always discussed. You got to get this 400 meters down, under a certain amount of time. And that was what was being studied. Even a few years ago when I was taking CrossFit on Memorial Day, we do this thing called the Murphy, and you have to run. And so everybody's goal is to run this mile in and around this 4-minute time period. So once someone has done it, then you know that you can do it. So it's very, very, very important. And if you ever talk to me, if you're a friend, if you're a coaching client, I'm talking about people who have done it. I'm helping you with the mathematical language. I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, listen, we believe that we know a true and living God. There's got to be some blessings that come with that. There's got to be some acceleration that come with that. There's got to be some success that comes with that. We just have to step out and test it out and see if it happens. And I guarantee you that it will. I guarantee you that it will. And I'll tell you a little secret. What you want to do is put that goal in your mind, put that mathematical logic, that logic of whether it's, listen, I follow a true and living God. I know Jesus and Jesus knows me. Whatever you got to say to yourself, okay, that you believe is the truth. Because really all about the energy that you line up with and if you believe in what it is that you're saying. See, someone said to me the other day, they said, the Elijah Muhammad House Museum is a conviction for you. You really do believe. And I had never really thought of it like that. I never consciously thought, oh, it's because I believe. But it is because I believe, right? That's what's in my vibrational crawl. And then the other mathematical language. I was reading a letter that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote. Let me say this without giving up. In other words, somebody had encouraged him to go after certain money. And I'm going to just throw it out here, whether it was a grant or some tax breaks or whatever. And they were jumping through hoops. That's the letter I was looking for when y'all went off air, but I couldn't find it, but I'm going to paraphrase it. Because I just read this letter and then I had just said it several years ago and I continued to say it. When somebody offered me a certain millions of dollars and said, you got to do some repackaging. And I said, I'll figure it out. It's been done before. I can do it. And if it ain't never been done before, I serve a true and living God. There's a mathematical formulary associated with submitting your will to do the will of Allah. And I'm so careful about people that I'm around, people who are sorcerers and mercenaries will come around you and say, well, you might not be able to do this, or what happens if you die, or how you feeling. Start trying to inject all kind of doubt. Those are very devilish people, and you have to be very careful. If somebody's not encouraging you and you're doing something that is very difficult or that is requiring all the aspects of your being, you want to be around people that are successful and that are encouraging you. And let me also say this, because this is sometimes what we have a tendency to do. We have a tendency to go, okay, I got to go into a shell to get something done. And sometimes that's true. We talked yesterday, sometimes you got to just go silent and dig in and go to work. But you want to be careful that if you make the decision to go dark or go silent or just kind of go into your own little shell and get something done, you want to make sure that you're not repeating the same thoughts and the same pattern that cause you to plateau and be stuck in the first place. See, what happens as we're studying and we're moving, we plateau. And then what do we need? We need new data. We need new information. We need new mathematical formularies to take us to that next level. Okay? But what happens is sometimes when we get on the plateau, we go to ourselves. We go silent. We go dark. And we got to be careful because that could be dangerous. Sometimes it's necessary if you got just tasks that you got to get done. Sometimes it's like, look, I got to get this administrative stuff done. I can't do nothing else. Got to knock this stuff out. But sometimes, and I've been guilty of this, where I'm like, okay, let me just kind of go silent so I can think. But I have to be careful to make sure that I'm injecting the right additional information, the right additional mathematical formulas, because otherwise I'm just going to regurgitate my own thoughts. And it is my own thoughts, my own vibration that got me here to this plateau. And I need to say congratulations to myself. I'm proud of you, sis. But now, what additional data do I need? What additional information do I need? And this is where we move into this confidentiality conversation, because you want to have a relationship with someone that can just straighten up your crown. If you a brother, if you a king, straighten up your crown. If you a queen, straighten up your crown. You need that person in your life that's going to straighten up your crown. Exercise you, get that negative energy up out of you, get them demons up out of you, and help you to exercise your crown. But in order to have those types of relationships, we have to learn how to maintain confidentiality. We have to learn how to be the keepers of the secrets. There's a lot of stuff for me that I've discovered in my research in developing the museum. But I'm not broadcasting it. I may never say it. Some things may be said if they're placed in context. Some things I'll never say. But knowing how to be the keepers of the secret, there's something spiritual to that. I believe there's a quote from, it's either the minister or the messenger, about being able to keep secrets. It's important. I remember our sister, Safia, when she trained us to work at the palace. I remember her looking at me and saying, you see, but you don't see. You hear, but you don't hear. And I had a bit of an understanding of that, having been in finance and accounting, because you learn to look at numbers and you learn to look at situations, but you're not necessarily judging or internalizing it or even memorizing it so you can put it out there to the world. It's just a number. You're analyzing it. You're doing what you have to do with it. You're understanding it in the context of what it is, but it's not something that you're putting out there. And for me, a person who is highly intuitive, I usually hear what's not being heard. I can pick up on conversations that somebody's had, even when they just come around me. I can tell from their vibration. But I made a promise to Allah in or around October 1990. And I don't talk about this much, but I'm going to share this because I want you to understand where I'm coming from when I talk about understanding the power of confidentiality. Because, see, nobody should talk to you thinking that you are going to be telling all of their business. Nobody should talk to you thinking that you're about to broadcast everything about them. And as a accountant, especially as a business consultant, I'm going to tell you a couple stories that support this theory and what I'm talking about, especially in business and especially in certain types of business. But this promise in 1990 that I made, I was actually sitting in the mosque number 74 on Sherman Drive in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I've always been a person that picks up on energy. I've always been a person that receives downloads. You heard me talking yesterday about going and kind of commemorating where I first had this experience at around 3 or 4 years old, in my grandmother's yard in Omaha, Nebraska, and just receiving. I've always been that person where all of a sudden I get that buzz and I know some information is coming through, and then I just stop and I get the information. As a young child, I didn't do anything with it. I would just stop and it would come in. Later on, as a young adult, I started to document. Much of the book that's coming out are downloads around business. Now I'm able to get it and sort it and kind of understand a little bit, get more comfortable with it. But sitting there, I remember I had one of those moments. I was walking in, I had come out of check post, and normally I'm always, we were always on post or had to do something. But for some reason this day, I wasn't on post. And I sat down in the audience, and the buzzing was coming really heavily. And I knew, obviously from past experience since I was 3 or 4 years old, that some information was coming in. And it wasn't something that I was very comfortable talking about. So I wouldn't just go and tell somebody. I wasn't at home where I could just go and meditate. I literally was at the mosque. And I don't remember what came through, but I do remember what my response was to it. You heard me talking yesterday about my grandmother, and I think you may have heard me talk about she had some pretty strong psychic abilities. But I always felt like she was mean with it. Sorry, Mom. She was mean. I just thought she was mean with her psychic ability. But I also thought it was so powerful because I just remember being in the house with her, and I would be thinking something and then she would say it. Or sitting on the couch reading the hymnals with her. We're always reading about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, the trilogy, always. And I remember sitting there and thinking something, and she would break the silence in the room and say it. Or we'd be watching Reverend Ike and she would say something. And so I learned that she could pick up on thoughts. And obviously, you know, the relationship between a grandchild and a grandparent is different from the children, because I think what happens with the grandparents is that by the time they get a little bit older, they've calmed down, they've learned. It's just a different kind of vibration, right? And so I had that luxury of that vibration, but just operating on that metaphysical level with her. And I had an auntie cousin. I have an auntie cousin. Y'all know how we are as Black people. She's auntie cousin. And she would also have these metaphysical conversations with me. And I would see what they call apparitions or ghosts, and she would acknowledge it or have these conversations with me. So I was kind of living a little bit in this world. So when I sat there in the mosque in 1990, I said to Allah, I said, if you give me this gift, that gift, and I was referring to the gift of my grandmother, in a deeper, stronger way, I will use it for you. If you give me that gift, I will use it for you. And I just kept saying that. And I said, and I'm not going to judge. I will maintain confidentiality. I won't make a move based on my egoic interpretation of what you give me. But if you give me that gift, I will do my best to use it for you. I made that promise. And I can honestly say that ever since that moment, Allah has been working with me to develop and use that gift, and more downloads and things like that would come in. And it to the point where later I had to say, allow me to have balance in my life, because I'm not in a situation where I can go sit off in a corner somewhere and just be that. I got to live. I got to make money. So help me navigate the world with that. And so when Safia said, you see, but you don't see, you hear, but you don't hear, I understood that on that level. And I understood it so that I could become first as an orientation instructor and understanding the power of, I believe it was using that gift that helped, that blessed me to be impactful as that instructor, because I could see and I could hear things that were not necessarily being presented, and I could use that to help awaken or nudge or ignite the God in somebody so that Allah could then take over. Because we have people that come to us from all walks of life. And it's one of those kind of things when you're trying to awaken the God within, you can't cookie cutter it. Some people are different and they come from different backgrounds, and it takes different things to awaken the God in them. But you got to go to that God place yourself and connect with the God in that person, and then that God will awaken. And once it's awakened, and then you can teach them other things. What does that mean when it comes to confidentiality? As your spiritual gifts develop, you're going to learn different things about people, whether it's because you're a good friend, whether it's because you see something. Stop being the person that gossips that slack talks, that runs your mouth, and stop feeding into that. Why do we do that? Because we find deceptively intelligent ways to gossip and to slack talk, like we're just giving information. Oh, what happened with so and so, so and so? Oh, this happened. And in your mind, you're just giving information. When in fact, excuse me, when in fact, what you're doing is you're really just gossiping. And you're using deceptive intelligence to disguise the gossip. So be careful about feeding into that. If somebody asks me a question about somebody, if I'm talking to someone and they want to know some information, I will literally right there in their face think those 5 times before I respond. Because not only do I not want to respond in the incorrect way, I don't want to respond in a correct way that then gives them fuel to go and gossip about that person. So confidentiality is critical, especially in business. For those of us that are business developers, advisors, and coaches, I rarely post my clients on social media. And if I do post them, you don't know if they're my clients or not. And if I do post them, you don't know what I've worked on with them. And understanding and having that level of confidentiality and knowing how to respond to questions has put me in places at tables that I could never have prayed for. So when you go into some of these high level business advisory conversations and they're testing you to see if you're going to share their information. Why is this important? Because I've had clients who are publicly traded companies, some that are trying to go public, some that just don't want certain information out because they don't want to impact their employees. And so they're constantly testing you to see if you're going to be in the break room talking about confidential things to their employees, if you're going to be out here on social media posting things. So they comb your social media for that. And when they comb your social media, they want to make sure you're human, but they don't want to see their information. And the reason why they know that they will see their information is if they see other clients' information. Same thing as if you're an attorney or, a doctor. There's what they call HIPAA compliance and stuff like that. There's attorney-client privilege. But if you are a person that talks too much, I guarantee you're on the road to get yourself in trouble. I was just dealing with someone the other day. And let me give y'all a hint about something that's going on out here in the business world. Generally, under Democratic presidents or Democratic government terms, the idea of having a nonprofit popularizes because what oftentimes happens is that there's an increased amount of money that is funneling down into the community from the government, whether it be the federal government or the state government, that then gets dispersed into community and different agencies. So a lot of people start these nonprofits. And then sometimes under a Republican tenure, that kind of dries up a little bit. But because we kind of go as an ebb and flow, people just kind of ride the wave. And what's happening now, because a lot of dollars that were trickling down from the federal government are no longer trickling, and there's a lot of pressure on the state to fund things. Some of the foundations have cut off certain funding. This is not the time for you to be starting a nonprofit and playing or thinking you're going to play with these people's money. And I know oftentimes as Black people, we see organizations get funded. We hear about, oh, Michael Jordan just gave $10 million to the such and such center, or Kanye West just gave $1 million to such and such, such and such. And then we think in our brain, shoot, I'm about to start me a nonprofit and get me some of that money. It is one of the quickest ways that Black people go to jail for a white collar crime, because there's a whole list of stipulations around how you have to account for the money, for commingling. If you're looking at that as dollars that you're going to spend and you excited about it, there's a lot that comes from that. There is no such thing as free money. Okay? There's no such things. If you book me for an advisory services, there's other ways that I can show you how to diversify your revenue portfolio that can incorporate a nonprofit arm of it. But don't you jump up there and just rush and go get your 501c3 and be out here taking donations thinking that because you've seen somebody else do it. And especially in this climate, because now that the nonprofit world is scrapping for dollars, anybody that don't look right, if you start a nonprofit in an area that don't got nothing to do with what you do, if you're just doing it just to be doing it, people snuff that out and they spot that out and they will report you. And every state government, the attorney general has a division for charitable nonprofit trusts. They all have different names. And they will report you and investigate you. And if they start smelling over you, something's going to stink. Why are they doing it? Because they want to reduce the competition. Money, free money, as they call it, which no money is free, but that grant money, that free money is sparse. And so you want to be very careful right now about jumping into that game, especially if you're jumping into the game and it's for something that you have nothing to do with. If you're not a veteran, then don't start no nonprofit for veterans, right? Not right now. Because all these other people that really are veterans that have these nonprofits, as soon as you look crazy, that charitable division of the attorney general is going to come at you. So be very careful. And we can do a consultation around how to help you be more palatable, how to help you keep yourself safe, how to really tweak the mindset so that you begin to set up different revenue streams for your organization. I see you, Sister Monica. She said, I bear witness. You very cautiously redirect questions you are asked where an answer isn't warranted. Yeah, yes, I do. Yeah, she said nonprofit, non-compliance will send you straight to federal prison. Let me tell you, it happens so much. And I can't speak on people that I know or clients that I know, but I'm just telling y'all right now, be careful. There are other ways to generate revenue. Just because you hear a lot of gloom and doom in the news doesn't necessarily mean that there's no money out here and that money is not flowing. It's just flowing differently. And so what this administration has done has changed the streams of revenue. And we could talk about that in your coaching session. But going back to what Sister Monica just said, actually about me, she said, I bear witness, you very cautiously redirect questions you are asked where an answer isn't warranted. Be mindful. We're going to start getting questions about things that are sensitive. Those of us that are in the nation, there's all kinds of scrutiny. You got people out here. And let me say this. And I covered this in my book. This just came to me. As Black people and entrepreneurs, we've had all kinds of antitrust and anti-competitive things placed in our way that impact our ability to generate independent revenue. As Black Muslims, it's even more. And I have a chapter in my book where I talk about the economic impact to America because they don't enforce these antitrust and anti-competitive violations that are strategized and that are put up against us. I'm sorry, I'm looking for the right word for that. Because they don't enforce that, it is one of the leading causes to the fall of the dollar and the fall of America. They can change or cushion some of what they're going through if they would stop allowing people to discriminate against us. So here's what happens to Black people when that happens. Okay. I'll take somebody like myself. I've been blessed to have some incredible credentials. A lot did that. I didn't do it. My resume, my background will stack up against any CEO, COO that you will meet, hands down. But because of these anti-competitive and anti-trust violations that are oftentimes directed towards Black Muslims in business, the revenue don't always match up with the credentials like it would if we were from another country. It already don't match up as a Black person, but for me as a Black woman Muslim, it don't always match up. And so people judge that. Dead people judge that. And so they say, oh, well, if she's all that, then how come she ain't worth $100 million? If this background is all of that, then I'm better because I don't got no background and I got more money. I want to caution us against that kind of thing. Because when you think like that, that means you're playing checkers and not chess. And I'm going to leave it there because this society makes you think that you can pocket watch and clock dollars. And here's where the confidentiality comes in. You over here pocket watching and clocking dollars and using your elementary limited experience judgment to place a package or a jacket on somebody whose enemies are not the same as yours. I know that went over some of y'all's heads. I'm going to let y'all think about that. Let me know in the comments if you got it. See, and this is no offense. I'm not trying to be demeaning to anybody, but if you work a job every day, and this can be used as strategy, go get you a job. Maybe you fly under the radar, but you saving up for your big business. It may buy you some time. But when your enemies know that you've been educated a certain way, you have certain experience and certain background, you know certain things, your enemies get bigger. And so my enemies may be bigger than your enemies because of the responsibility that Allah placed on me. And then once, or I won't even say bigger, they just may be different, right? Your enemies match your level and match your responsibility and your experience. So what happens in our community We're very judgmental. And so we judge that person. Let's say you got somebody in your family who can sing. Oh my God, they can sing. They are powerful. And what you believe goes along with having a great voice is being famous. You're like, they can sing better than Beyonce. So in your mind, the checkers that you're playing, you think because they got this voice, they should be bigger than Whitney. They should be bigger than Mariah. They should be bigger or as big as Beyonce, Diana Ross, whoever you're thinking of. That's the way your mind thinks. But that person with the great voice may be saying, it's better for me to stay at this level and maintain my sovereignty. I get to write my own songs. I get to keep most of the money that I'm making. Whatever comes with that sovereignty, that may be more important to them. But you don't see that, and you may not understand that. So you judge them because here they are with that big voice. They should be as big as the biggest artists in the world. I know this is going over some of y'all head, but I want you all to pay attention to it. Be careful with judging based upon the checkers moves or the checkers game that you are playing. Until you start playing chess, where you're thinking 5 moves ahead, you're thinking strategically, until you start operating like that, suspend your judgment. See, I see that as confidentiality. That, to me, that's a department of confidentiality, is not being so judgmental. If somebody comes to me for help, I'm not looking at them like, well, they can't be shit because they're asking me for help. Never do I do that. I then understand that perhaps whatever enemy they are facing is blocking them, and this is my opportunity to help them go around that obstacle and keep going. Let me know if you have any questions about that, if you get this or not. But that is a department of confidentiality. So when people come to you, let me tell you something. I love helping people solve problems. I get the biggest kick out of it, the high out of it. You know, I have this concept where I say, look, every problem is just a math problem. Let's go. I love helping people with that. I love helping people get to the next level. I have a saying, I paid for this experience with my blood, sweat, and tears. So some of y'all don't have to pay the price. You don't got to pay the premium. You got to pay a little bit. Some of y'all getting it for free. Especially if you like and subscribe to this channel. Thank you, sis. Yeah. That's a department of confidentiality. Not judging and broadcasting everything about somebody. And some of us, when we support somebody or we see something wrong with somebody, we identify them with that problem and we say it over and over and over again. A person could have asked you for something 20 years ago, and we still looking at people like that. Let me tell you, when I moved, prior to moving to Maryland temporarily to build the hospitals and the clinics and the spas, I had been traveling. So I was on the road, traveling back and forth. So I was rarely in one place. I had a place here in Chicago, but I just was rarely here. And so people didn't know where I was. They thought I had moved. But I just was moving around. And not necessarily by choice, but this went on for a number of significant years. And then once I relocated temporarily to Maryland, that's when I started doing a lot of international travel. So I still wasn't steady. And then when I got steady and would put my feet on the ground, I was building. Okay. So when I moved back to Chicago to build and develop um, the Elijah Muhammad House and expand the mind of an entrepreneur brand and kind of get back to my consulting roots, some people had not seen me since I was starving. Some people had not seen me. Let me say it this way. I'm so about resurrection and evolution that I'm not even the same person that I was when I woke up this morning at 4:30. And so that person that knew me before all those travels around the country, before all that traveling around the world, they don't know me no more. They think they do, but you really don't. There's a underlying through line with who I am, but my experiences have been so vast and I've seen so much, and Allah has placed so much responsibility on me that there's a side of me that doesn't care anymore. And I don't mean that in a negative way. There's a side of me that doesn't consider certain things anymore, that maybe if you knew me back in the day and maybe you were able to manipulate me with certain things, it won't work today. Because the more and more responsibility that Allah places on you, the more you got to focus on that responsibility, and the less time you have worrying about things that don't matter. Because Allah has a way of tethering your whole life to whatever it is that He wants you to do, because He wants to make sure that you do it, and He makes it easier when you do that. That's a whole nother conversation. But anyway, any questions about this aspect of confidentiality? And I know we traveled around a lot of concepts to get here. We started with, if somebody else can do it, you can do it. And I wanted to do that to take that jealousy and envious stick out of your hand, so that you're not violating people's confidentiality because you're so insecure that you want to use their situation, what they're going through, to make yourself look good. You know how many blessings you get when you help out confidentially and you don't ever say anything about it, and you just keep going and say, hey, no, I got you, I'm just supporting you. Do you know how Allah comes at you flying? You get the benefit of all them ancestors in that person's background that was praying and dreaming for them to accomplish that goal. You get every background benefit from helping that person without victimizing, demonizing them, or belittling them. That's huge. But if you are a person who can't keep a secret, you talk too much, you're constantly embarrassing people, it's all kind of bad energy that follows you as a result of that. But more importantly, you're going to impact every relationship that you're in, because people will look at you and they know, well, this person can't hold water. We all know people like that. You sitting up watching them tell something about somebody else, you best believe that when you ain't there, they telling your business too. And here's where it can get dangerous. If you are a person who has a different level of enemy and opposition, that can become dangerous, because then people can use that person to get information about you and make a move against you. Don't be that person. Don't be that person. I'm like Fort Knox. I learned I can move my mouth and not say anything. You can call sister just bore witness and I can move. I ain't saying nothing. Stuff I've seen, places I've been, people I know. You ain't getting it from me. And they can walk past me and they ain't even got to speak to me. They can walk past me and know I ain't saying nothing. But there are people who have information about you that that maybe they met you at a vulnerable time. They saw you when you made a mistake, you was going through something, and they will use that information either to expand it and lie on it, but to make themselves seem better than you. And to just flat out lie. It's not good. Not good. Even if you listen, and let me tell you this for the sisters. Even if you were in a relationship with a man and you now broke up with him and you know certain things about him, don't be tacky and just vomit all over the place and tell all the person's business. It's something about the way you look when you just, for no reason, just telling it all. Unless that person is doing some kind of crime that's hurting people or something like that, then yes, you should, if you see something, say something. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about when maybe you escaped a situation and you saw some molestation or some fraud or something like that going on. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just those basic everyday mistakes that people make and you just blowing them up and blowing it up. Especially if it's somebody that you once loved and you were once friends with. Somebody just told me the other day, there was somebody, a sister that I used to be really close with. They told me something she said, a lie that she said about me. And I was like, in that moment, just them letting me know about that lie she told, it told me a lot about the growth and development or lack thereof of that person after all these years. And I said to the person who told me, I said, you know what? I said, I would never say anything disparaging about her. I said, since you told me that you know her and we've been talking and you asked me a question about her, I've only given you the traits and attributes about her as a sister that I believe will be beneficial to y'all relationship. You ain't never heard me talking about who she dated, who she liked back in the day, how she was, what she used to do. And the person's nodding their head. I said, but not only did she try to do that with you, I said, it's really irrelevant. It's a non-factor to me because it's stuff from way back in the day. I said, but then she lied. I said, so you judge. I was trying to protect her character because I could sense that you were trying to find out something, but she told you who she was by the lie she told on me. So be careful. Be very careful. That's why when somebody come to you and they trying to, this last thing I'm going to say, then we're going to go. This is for single sisters out here. You meet a brother and he's talking, just be quiet and let him talk. And you can listen and you can hear. You can listen and hear and you can see how is he with secrets? How is he with information? I'm just saying. All right, y'all. So thank you for listening. This is Confidentiality. Give me a thumbs up if this kind of helped open some eyes for us today and a different twist on confidentiality. That's what you're going to find in the book, just different ways to look at these business concepts so that we take the sting off of them and make them part of our everyday lives. And then I've written some chapters so that they can be used to create legislation that will help protect us, because we definitely need some protection as we move forward in business. Business is warfare, and we can't forget about that. So not only do we need that physical security and that physical protection, but we need some legal and legislative protection as well. But most importantly, let's not tear each other down and make ourselves so weak that the enemy can easily just pounce on us. Let's be careful. Let's uphold one another. All right. Okay, y'all. As I mentioned yesterday, we got some things coming up. Big secret. We about to open soon. But in the meantime, you can still become a sponsor for the Elijah Muhammad House. We've been working in silence. You can still become a sponsor. You can still get a coin. I'm going to post today. I was downtown yesterday and went past this coin shop, and I looked in there and I said, ooh, one day our coins are going to be in here as collector's items. So I'm telling y'all, get these coins. I would have thought y'all would have sold them out by now, but I cannot stress enough how important it is to get these coins. And as I comb through historic documents, I said, how powerful would it be to have had a coin or some artifact from the 1930s when the nation first started? Or how powerful would it be to have some kind of commemorative item in our home from the development of Mas Mariam or something significant like that? So those coins are for sale for that. We got sponsorship opportunities available. Stay close, because I'm putting together this first launch of the series, The Messenger's Residence. It's the first episode is called The Messenger's Footsteps. And I want you all to check that out. And yeah, I don't want to say too much, but that's it. Okay. And then we got some financial literacy boot camps and things like that coming up. So stay close. All right. Okay, family, if there's nothing else, I am going to go. I'll do some reruns this week so that you all can continue to stay close to the information. And some of these shows, if you've already seen them, jump on here and look at them again. And just refresh your mind, refresh your brain. It's important. All right. Peace and blessings, family. Make sure you like and subscribe. You can either hit the super chat to support or go to Cash App, Sajda Enterprises. Any little bit helps. This platform, everything that we're doing, we are not charging for probably 90% of what we're doing, and we should be, but it's all about getting this information out to you as much as possible. And we have to do it independently. There's a lot of blocking and shadow banning because these are subjects that are not things that people want folks to know. And when you book a session with me, I'll explain more. Okay, family, peace and blessings. Don't go anywhere.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who in my judgment is the master historian, taught us that of all our studies, history is the most attractive, and it is best qualified to reward the researcher. History is most attractive. Why should history be most attractive? Because history is the recorded time of the human family in its struggle to overcome obstacles. There is no life that is without struggle. The Holy Quran teaches us that man, meaning man and woman, is made to face difficulties. And after difficulty comes ease. But it is history that guides us through difficulty. For if you know how people who had difficulty yesterday got through, and if your difficulty is somewhat similar, then today we also can get through if we follow the guidance of history. This is why Carter G. Woodson and many of our black giants fought for black people to know our history. Because in not knowing our history, we don't have a guide. And without a guide, we are lost. No wonder the